Welcome back to the channel's Go Greddy. Today we got something a little different for you. A lot of folks were struggling trying to get the Neoclassic Challenge done without the legendary car that they needed, those best Group 1 cars or the Escuda. So I went ahead and spent a few million credits and found a car from the used car lot that would get the job done. So stick around, check it out. The car you are looking for can be found in your garage under Nissan and can also be found in the used car lot. You do not have to wait for a Group 1 legendary car or the Escuda to pop up there. You can simply go in your garage, and hopefully you've already got this car because it is the 1994 R32 GTR V-Spec 2. And it's the one you want because you can drop an absolute monster of an engine in it, and that is going to allow you to do some very special things in order to win the Neoclassic Challenge. The engine you are looking for is the Nissan VRH35Z R92 CP, and if it's not in your inventory, not a big deal because you can go over to GT Auto and you can drop it in for a scanty 1.6 million credits. So hopefully it's in your inventory so you don't have to spend the 1.6 million. But this is a Group 1 engine out of the R92. So it's going to allow you to save fuel and be able to compete with those Group 1 cars. Now the problem with all these street cars, of course, is, well, they're not light enough, they have terrible brakes, and they're hard on tires. But this engine and this tune is going to solve all of that. So first, get the boys together and well, let's go ahead and pull that body out a little bit wider because we're gonna, well, I mean, everybody knows wider is better, so let's get it wider, a little more stability in those corners. Then I'm gonna throw on some Onkai, however you want to say it, RAO 40s, because those are racing wheels and this is a race car and it needs to have one center nut. It's not going to have, 5 lugs around the outside you got to fool with on the pit stop. So got that taken care of. Then we're going to go to the front end. We're going to put that big Type B style front splitter on there because, well, it's carbon fiber, so why not? Also Type B side skirts, keep that arrow under the car, and then we're going to put the big splitter on the back there, so big diffuser, I guess you should say. And then, of course, a big wang on the back because we need all the downforce we can get for when it gets, crazy in the corners. Now, we're not done yet. Every race car needs a tow hook in case you go off track. I mean, they got to get you out of the grass somehow. And, well, it needs a roll cage. I went with the Type A roll cage just because I hadn't purchased one yet. So I figured, why not? I'll throw the Type A roll cage in there. It might help with the rigidity of the car a little bit. Not even sure, but someone who knows a lot about tuning may know that. Toss the front plate because who the heck wants a front plate on their race car? And then let's have a look at that front grille. It's okay from the factory, but I like to open it up a little bit more for some extra cooling on that 1.6 million credit R92 CP. And then put it all into effect. And after it gives you that 100% done, we're going to go over to the tuning shop. We are going to add more parts on to our R32 to make it an absolute monster. But the first thing we need to do is stage 1 lightning. Then we're going to go stage 2 weight reduction there. By that, I'm going to go ahead and grab the power restrictor and the ballast. You actually don't need that, so don't worry about it. If you don't want to spend the money on that, you won't need it, so you don't have to buy it. Next, we're going to pick up the medium RPM turbocharger. We're going to be hanging out in the mid-range of the RPM band to save fuel. Then we're going to reduce the weight, and then we're going to make it a little more rigid to handle that R92 CP engine. And then I, for some reason, forgot to buy the LSD, so I went back in time and added that in. So you need to get that adjustable limited slip differential. Get you some racing brake pads because those work better than the other ones. And we want to grab the brake balance controller. We want to grab the fully customizable suspension because we're going to do some suspension tuning. And then we're going to need that racing clutch and flywheel. Let's lighten up the drivetrain a little bit. Go with that torque vectoring diff because you can adjust it when it gets wet out, and that'll be nice. Fully customizable transmission so we can adjust our gear ratios to suit our new engine. We're going to lighten her up again. Then we're going to grab all of the racing tires because I'm not sure which ones we're going to need. You will only need the softs. So just grab a set of softs. That's all you need. We also are going to need some NOS because, well, why not? And then we're going to grab the carbon ceramic brakes because they're way cooler than the other racing brakes. Grab the intermediates and the wets because we don't know what kind of rain the game is going to throw at you. And then we're going to go to the ultimate category, and we are going to do stage 5 weight reduction and we're going to grab a carbon propeller shaft, and that is going to make our 1994 R32 GTR V-Spec 2 an absolute Group 1 killer. Now on to the tedious part, going into the race and then getting the tune on. So we're going to go over to Europe, and we're going to head over to the Red Bull Ring and then into the Neo Classic Challenge. Again, this is an 800 pp race. Got to be at least 1980, but 1999 or less. We're going to switch over now to our racing soft tires and then jump into the tune. I'm going to rename the tune. You don't have to, but I'm going to do that so that later on I'll know what the heck this was. I'm going to call it Neo because I'm very creative like that, you know, and really I want to come up with something unique to call it. So Neo is where I went with. Now I'm going to drop the car down, not all the way to the ground, because don't forget, at the Red Bull Ring, we do have those sausage curbs, so we want to avoid bottoming out if we can. So put her down at about 90 millimeters. Then we're going to play with the anti-roll bar here. We're going to stiffen it up. Remember, those are your springs and turning, so you can keep the car a little bit softer but if you want it stiffer in the turns, you up the anti-roll bars. So I'm going to go with a 7/8 to keep the rear end a little bit looser than the front end. If you say, Greddy, that makes absolutely no sense. Well, it's because when you're in a corner, the rear is going to be stiffer, so it's going to have a tend to pull up on the outside tires. So it's going to allow you to spin up the rear tires and allow you to drift a little bit with that back end. Then I'm going to increase the dampening ratio, both expansion and compression, and I'm going to stiffen the springs through the natural frequency. That'll give you a little more oversteer on the rear end as well, as the springs are stiffer and the rear end will want to step out on you a little bit more. Then I'm going to increase the front camber just to give me a little more bite in the corner with the front end and decrease the rear toe so it drives just nice and straight, just tracks a little bit straighter without the rear getting too crazy on me. Plus I want to be able to put that power down with the back end, and then I'm going to add a little bit of toe for some turn in, and then move the differential, which I forgot to buy, so I have to go back and buy it, and then go to the torque vectoring center differential. I'm going to leave that at a 35-65 split, more towards the rear, but you can move that more towards the front if you need to, if you're struggling with that rear end stepping out on you, especially in the wet. Then we're going to max out the rear spoiler, and then we're going to bring the front spoiler to 190. Now I'm going to change that later after I get the LSD. You'll see that I'll adjust that later, so that is going to change. Then we're going to put the transmission at 400 kilometers per hour. It's going to make my gears a good bit longer, allow me to save some fuel and not blow out the tires with this monster engine. Drop the NOS down to 15. I want to be able to have plenty of NOS throughout the whole race. A little 15% boost in power should be plenty. Got the medium RPM turbocharger already. Now I've gone back and added the LSD. So now I'm going to increase the front downforce to 200. So we got 200 and 320 in the rear. And then I'm going to drop the front differential down to all fives to start with. I was going to see how that felt, and I just actually left it there. It wasn't bad at all. Then I go with the 5-20-10 on the rear differential. I like the way that kind of feels. And you'll see I kind of played with it a little bit there, but we'll end up with a 5-20-10. I've used that on other cars, and I like the way that makes the rear end feel in the car. It just seems predictable, I guess you should say. Then we're going to jump into the Neo Classic Challenge, and we are going to absolutely send it here. Now, you want to be 2 to the rear on your brake mount, so it'll give you a little bit better even tire wear. And then I moved it to a 25-75 rear split. Again, I want a little more rear bias here, so I can get the car just a little bit looser in the corners and be able to get a little bit of oversteer so I can, make the turns. We're going to have to go to a fuel map of 2 and shift about the halfway point, and you'll have enough fuel to go the distance. Now, this is the big upgrade on this car, is being able to go 10 laps on fuel with only a fuel map 2. Look at this thing just eating up these PP 800 cars here at the Neo Classic Challenge, just absolutely running them down. So as we go around the Pikes Peak Audi here, he can't keep up with the R32 with the R92 CP engine. This thing is just an absolute beast on this track. As we come out of the left-hander here at the Red Bull Ring, you'll see we have 9.3 laps of fuel remaining, and I'm not even really having to push the car, just driving like it's a Sunday drive, shifting early, going around guys like they're sitting still. And look at that fuel. The fuel looks absolutely great as we come around the end of lap 1. I usually go a little harder lap 1. I try and get by as many cars as I can. I can always save a little fuel later on in the race if I need to. Getting on the NOS right here as we come towards the CLK LM and just leave it in the dust. Man, this weight reduction 5 made all the difference in the world on this car, being able to get around the track, good braking, good handling, and good fuel mileage. I tried the Supra, I tried the Porsche 911 that fit into the 90s category. Couldn't get any of them to be good enough on fuel to be able to make it through the race all the way to 10 laps, much less even get through 5 laps. But dropping this engine into this car, I was able to get it to go the distance, and that is really what you need to be able to secure a win at the Neo Classic Challenge, is to have the fuel mileage to be able to get there. So that is what this allows you to do, is really get that fuel mileage. Now coming here through lap 4, we'll go by Gallo here, and he is in that Mercedes Sauber C9. So leave him in the dust. Now we're coming up on that final little pack before the leader, which is Team Miyazono. And sorry about that, hit that guy there. I was flipping through the heads-up display and just ran right into the back of the car. So there goes the clean race bonus out the window. Forget that. But again, we're on lap 4. This is going to be a rain race. That's the other thing I like about this tune, this car, and this setup, is it can handle both the victory in a dry race where you get no rain, and it can handle a victory if it gets wet, because it is so quick, even when it's wet, that you're good. And then it's fast enough to track down the leaders if it's dry, to be able to take the victory with a no stopper, even if they go with a no stopper. So as we come by here, Danny Solis isn't going to be able to hold us back in the Escuda. We're going to fly on by him. We're already up into second place here on lap 5, only 6 seconds down off the leader, and we've got rain coming, which works right into my hands in the R32 GTR, because it is all-wheel drive. So now it is your advantage. The Group 1 cars are really going to struggle when it rains out. The all-wheel drive Nissan will struggle much less, depending on how good you are in the rain. I'm absolutely terrible in the rain. Well, I made easy work of this race with the rain. So if you're any good in the rain, you should absolutely destroy the competition. So I throw on the intermediates here. The intermediates can handle some pretty heavy weather with this all-wheel drive car. And plus, when it starts to dry out, it's nice to be on those intermediate tires and be able to just put down some fast laps near the end of the race, especially if the competition is on the wet tires. So D. Solis goes in the pit there on the hard tires. I assume he's going to come out on intermediates or wets in the Escuda, but he's not going to be able to catch us in the R92 CP R32 Nissan GTR Spec 2. Heck no. He's gone. Forget about him. Miyazono, nope, no good in the wet there. Even though he had on the wet tires, we go flying by him like he is absolutely standing still. Move the bias you see there to a 35-65 split, a little more towards the front end. Move the traction control up to 2. No need to get silly and just lose the race because I'm doing something not too smart. And, lose the car, spin out. It's easy to get bored when you're in these races and then you get out front like this and it's wet out and you end up flying off the track and losing or getting second place because you did something silly. So I don't want to do anything silly. So put the traction control on 2 there just to save myself from myself. Again, fuel map still on 2. Could probably have dropped it down to 1, but actually get a little better traction in the wet there, but with a higher fuel map, and take home the victory without much trouble at all, to be honest. Took home a nice first place victory with a used car. Like I said, this is the only used car I've been able to find to be able to win this race. Ran a 15:33, which isn't an outstanding time in this race, but plenty good enough to beat all those other cars. Decided to go at it again, trying to get a dry weather race to see how the car would do in a perfectly dry conditioned 10-lap race. And again, torque vectoring, I'm at a 25-75, biasing it towards the rear, getting on the NOS here on lap 1, getting by as many cars as I can. I gotta tell you, it is so much fun flying by these cars in this Nissan GTR. This thing is an absolute animal out here at the Red Bull Ring. On lap 1, already moved up here to 12th place here, heading through the tight right-hander, the hairpin at the Red Bull Ring, and flying by the competition as we head down the hill in towards corner number 3. I think this is corner 3. I think technically it might be corner 4. I think that little bend on the straight is considered corner 2. I don't remember. Anyway, catch up to the big pack in front of the leader here. It's 3, 4, and 5 right here. Get by Sauls without any trouble. V Gallo up next in the Merc. Go screaming by him. Now I got to chase down M. Hizale. Hizale piloting the Porsche, what is that, the 962, I believe it is, as we catch up to him into the technical section here at the Red Bull Ring. You would think you would have the advantage in that Group 1 car, but not enough advantage to hold off the mighty Nissan R32 as we do go by him in that 962C. Beautiful race car, but just not fast enough with 800 pp to hold us off. On to lap number 5. It started to get a little dark out. Thought it might rain, but it held off. So we did not get any rain. And then we caught up with P2, who is in the R92 CP that we borrowed an engine from to slap into our Nissan GTR. And we go screaming by him into second place on lap number 6. Only 7 seconds behind the leader, Martin Greddy. Now, question is, can we hunt him down? Now, I got a couple penalties because I was being silly, like I mentioned before, and was 3.9 seconds off the leader, but then he goes into the pits for a set of fresh tires. He was on the mediums, so got lucky there. If I hadn't got the penalties, I would have definitely caught him here on lap number 9, but with the pair of penalties, it was going to be a little bit sketchy as to whether or not I was going to catch him, but with the pit stop, able to pull out the victory on the nose stopper in the Nissan GTR V-Spec 2. So if you're looking for a used car to win this race and you got 1.6 million in credits or the engine in stock in your garage, you can do it with this car, R32 GTR V-Spec 2. However, if you do not have 1.6 million in credits, but you've already got the car and you've already got it tuned up quite a bit, good news, you can also win this race with a highly tuned version of the 1994 R32 GTR V-Spec 2, and you don't need the R92 CP engine. Now, I already had this car in my garage, and it's already pretty much tuned up. I just didn't have any of the ultimate tuning items on it. So I went back through and checked and made sure that I had everything that I needed. And so I went through and checked everything here and made sure it had everything I would need. I pretty much just bought all of the top-end tuning parts for this car. So weight reduction, rigidity, LSD, torque vectoring differential, all of the top parts I just slapped on the car. I loaded up the parts cannon and pulled the trigger. So what you ended up with is basically pretty close to the same car as the one I put the R92 CP engine in, except there were a few more tuning parts that you had to get that you couldn't get on the one with the swapped engine. So make sure you get the the titanium connecting rods and the weight reduction 5 carbon shaft, the high lift camshaft, all of that stuff. Put it all on there because you're going to need every bit of it to win this race without the swapped in Group 1 engine. So we'll go to the tune. Very similar tune to my other car, a little bit different. I had set this car up for a different race, but I didn't really feel like fooling with the tune too much, so you can look at all of my settings there. Pause the video. Just go ahead and match your settings to mine, or just use the settings you used from the previous R32 that I did. They're fairly similar. They drive pretty close to the same. It's an all-wheel drive car, so it's really kind of hard to get it out of shape anyway. So you can always fool with the tune and get it to your liking. Now, I had to put on all my parts here that I bought that I didn't have on already because I was trying to meet the limitations of, I think it was like a PP700 or PP600 race. Can't remember what it was. But anyway, dropping on the racing intercooler and putting it on the anti-lag system. Don't forget to set it to strong, though, because if you don't set it to strong, it'll be on the off. So even though you added anti-lag, it won't work because you haven't set it to weak or strong. So don't forget to do that. I found out there I forgot to get the racing clutch and flywheel. So as usual, Greddy has to go back and pick that up, put it on the car. So as you'll see right here, there it is. I forgot to buy that. I bought everything else. Forgot to buy that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on right here. Going to There we go. Got that racing clutch and flywheel on there. Going to go ahead and increase the rear downforce, max that out to 320, and do the same for the front. And get as much bite through the corners as you can. Plus, it's going to help you in the rain as well. The more downforce is very, very beneficial when it is raining because, well, you run out of mechanical grip. Hopefully, you got a little arrow to keep you planted on the carpet or concrete or whatever the heck it is out there. We're going to move it up to 320 kilometers per hour with the transmission. And here we go in the race. We're going to move it up at fuel map 6. Again, just the torque vectoring, however you enjoy it. I had it at 75, 25 here. And unfortunately, I deleted the wrong recording of the replay. So I have to pull up the regular replay to show y'all how I actually won the race. Now, this tune requires you to pit stop at the halfway point. So if it does not rain at the halfway point, it's highly unlikely you're going to win it with just the stock tuned engine. You can only go 5 laps on fuel. That's why that R92 CP engine is such a big upgrade for this car, because it can go 10 laps without needing fuel. This engine can only go 5 unless you save just a ridiculous amount of fuel, and then you will, well, to be honest with you, you're not going to be fast enough. So to be fast enough to win this race, you've got to go fuel map 6, shift early like I'm doing. So you're shifting about the quarter way mark, and watch your fuel. Make sure you are using your fuel appropriately to be able to go 5 laps, but you want to be going fast enough that you're steadily gaining time on the leaders in the race. And then when the rain comes on lap 5, you know you've got it. So if you run the race and the race does not come on lap 5, you can keep going and collect your credits, or you can just hit retry. I just kept hitting retry until I got rain on lap 5 because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to win the race. So, and I didn't really concern myself with the credits. I've already spent like 40 million credits trying to find this car anyway. So, not worried about the credits. Come out here, heavy rain, absolute deluge. So again, TC2 in the rain. I'm moving that bias forward to keep the front end, more traction towards the front end. It's going to pull the car straight. If the rear end starts to get a little loose, you can give it gas and actually straighten the car out. So the more bias you put towards the front end, the easier it's going to be to keep the car straight. And remember to brake early enough. A few times I forgot to brake early enough, and I went off the track. So even going off track, I win this race. And you'll be able to do so too. If it rains, again, like I said, around lap 5, pretty much got it in the bank. They're all going into the pits now. I'm passing them up. I'm on my intermediates already, and I am gone. I'm out of here. They aren't going to catch me. They're coming out in wets, intermediates. It doesn't matter. I've got 5 laps of fuel. I filled up in the pits. I put my intermediates on, and I'm going to take it all the way to the end. And in this race, I want to say I won this race by 28 seconds or so, maybe a little less. You can see right there, I'm actually lapping the traffic. So we're lapping here on lap 10. We just lapped the Porsche. The car is plenty good to take it to the end, as you found out with the previous tune, if it rains out. This car is not good enough to take it to the end, however, when it is dry. But doing a little drift there through the final corner, heading towards the end of the race. Going to grab victory here at the Neo Classic Challenge with a straight tuned used car. So hope you found this video useful. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe. Come back, check out some more. For myself, Greddy. Y'all have a great evening.